Well, Stuart, an awful lot happened in that day of Ashes cricket. At the end of it, do you feel, as an England team, that you're on top?
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty exhausted. I forgot how nerve-wracking and sort of how tense Ashes cricket is, particularly day one of the series. But I think after losing the toss and bowling, I think you take bowling a team out for under 300 every day of the week. We don't know how good a score that will be until we've batted on it. I think here, day two is normally the best time to bat. So that's a positive, and the way Steve Smith played shows that runs can be got on that pitch. At 120 odd, I think it was for 8. We obviously wanted to bowl Australia out for much less, but Smith and Siddle played beautifully, and I think the pitch has slowed down a little bit from that morning session, or maybe our ball got soft with the rain. But yeah, we're pretty happy. I think it was important we didn't lose a wicket tonight as well. I think that was a really good 2 overs from Rory and Jace, and yeah, we're happy.
One thing that people will inevitably be reflecting on this evening, Stuart, is whether they're going to see James Anderson bowl again in this Test match or in this series. I mean, you know him better than anybody. Where is he with his fitness right now?
Yeah, he's not had the results back yet. He is down. He's frustrated. He actually came and said sorry to all the bowlers. Not that he's got anything to be sorry for, but he's distraught he couldn't have been out there today. But I don't know sort of the next step with it. You know, it could show not much and he could be able to bowl second innings, or it could show something and it might be a couple of weeks. So until we get the scan results back, I don't suppose there's too much to say apart from he's a bit down in the dumps, as you'd expect, and feels like he's let the bowling group down, but of course he hasn't, because A, niggles a part of fast bowling, and B, you know, he's a bit distraught, but we'll take bowling Australia out for under 300 for sure, man down. Just
finally from me, I mean, personally, Stuart, was that one of you up there with your very best Ashes spells? I mean, the way you got the ball today was exactly where you wanted it.
Yeah, for what I've been working on the last month, worked today, which is always a really good sign. Peter Moores and our NOTS analyst, Kuniev, came to me about 4 weeks ago, and said that my leave percentage was a bit higher than my norm. So the last month I've just been challenging myself to make the batsman play as often as possible, and that's been my number one goal. I've not been too bothered about line and length, and I'm focusing on getting the batsman to play every single ball. And I think my leave percentage today was down at sort of under 15%, which is really low. You know, it can average at 25, 26%. So that's just a little thing that it was brilliant coaching and analyst work to bring that to my attention, and it just gave me such a sole focus coming into today. And look, whether I'd have got no wickets or 5, those sort of numbers coming back to me as a low leave percentage pleases me as a bowler, because that's my target.
We'll go Sam, Will, and then Ali.
Stuart, Peter Siddle and James Patterson have spoken about how close they are with you. So what was it like bowling to those guys out there today?
Yeah, I've played a lot with Sids and Pato, and they're good friends, really great guys. So it's always odd when you play against friends in that way. But England-Australia is always a little bit of spice, isn't there? But yeah, Sids played beautifully. I thought he played really well for his 40 odd and got a good ball in the end. But delighted to see those two guys playing, because I know how hard they work, and I see a lot behind the scenes of how they go about their business, and they've been brilliant professionals for Nottinghamshire, and they've got the highest regard at that club. And I think when you associated with a county, everyone at that county wants you to go on and do well for your country. So it's great to see them playing in such a big series. So yeah, I obviously don't want them to take too many wickets, but I want them to enjoy their trip.
And just on Steve Smith, you had leg slips, silly points, deep backward square legs, all these funky fields. Did you sort of run out of the plans to him?
I had everyone on the boundary used to hit me for 4 at one stage. Yeah, he's played beautifully today. There's no doubt about that. He's always been awkward to bowl at, particularly on the slower pitches. But I thought we bowled really well at him up until tee. And then he capitalised on maybe the ball going a bit softer, and he played a bit more positively and took his scoring options. But yeah, actually Virat Kohli did similar to us last year, got 149 I think, out of a lowish total. But so the encouraging thing for us that we can take out of it, obviously there's no real positives of Steve Smith getting 130 the first game of the series, but it shows that if we apply ourselves, runs can be scored on there, particularly if you get in. I think it's a tricky pitch to start, but if someone goes and gets to 30, we can capitalise.
Will?
Stuart there. Smith obviously played a freakish innings, but he can't necessarily do it on his own every time, and you must feel really pleased with how it went against the rest of the top 7 who didn't really strike a blow.
Yeah, our plans actually, we'd worked quite hard, went to St George's Park and did some research on the Australians as a team, and then we've sort of got a big document folder full of information on each player, and a few of the plans paid off actually. I was a bit surprised by the Payne one because I had a short leg and a square leg, and I was just trying to run it back into off stump to bring the short leg into play. And Mo turned to me mid-off and said, Rooty says bowl him a bouncer. And it was quite a slow pitch, so I was like, all right, okay. Didn't get up, but Rooty had moved deep square leg back, which I didn't know he'd gone. So I thought he'd whacked it. And I thought, oh, God's sake, that's 4. And I looked up and Burnsy was like right underneath it, hence the silly face. But yeah, so not all plans, Rooty knew about that plan more than me. But yeah, we stuck to our plans well today. So there was a little bit of nibbling the pitch early, particularly with the wobble seam. No swing, because couldn't buff that ball at all. But yeah, we were delighted to make the breakthroughs we did.
Stuart, what does 100 Test wickets against Australia mean to you personally?
I didn't know actually. Stokesy told me in the physio's room when we were just taking our tape off. But it's Ashes cricket for us is the pinnacle. Obviously, my family history in it. So I was always desperate to play Ashes cricket, and to be able to have been fortunate enough to play in the amount of series I have is special. And there is no better feeling than lifting that urn, for sure. So it really is the pinnacle for an English Test cricketer. So it's an honour to have taken that sort of amount of wickets against Australia, but hopefully there's a few more to come.
Rory, then George.
Stuart, when you first ball of the match for you got David Warner out, as it turns out, but it wasn't one of your most enthusiastic appeals. Did you think you'd got him?
There was a big noise and quite a woody noise, and I said to Joss at square leg, that sounded like wood. And he was like, that was really woody. But it was so close to the ground as well, so it was such a risk to try and review. But to be honest, you go to bed the night before the game and you visualise in your picture getting David Warner out first ball, like nipping away on off stump, nick to second slip, all that sort of thing. You never visualise lobbing a half volley down the leg side and him bottom edging it to diving Johnny Bairstow. So I wasn't too disappointed with that one not being given. Yeah, it was. My plan was to try and hit his stumps today because he's so, he's so strong through the offside, and a lot of people talk about trying to find his edge outside off stump. But as soon as I noticed the pitch was a little bit slow, I just thought I'm going to try and make him play every single ball as much as I can on the stumps. And not saying that will be the same for every single pitch, but it's a different plan to what I've had to him in the past, for sure. And
just quickly, you seemed like you spent a good 10 or 15 minutes out in the middle on your own at the start of play today. What was the thinking there? What was going through your mind?
I don't bowl before the team warm up. I always try and get some bowling done when I'm loose in my whites. But there was a bit of with the national anthems, which is something we don't always do, there's a bit of sort of juggling on times. So I just thought I'm way better off being heavily into a bowling spell, bit of a sweat on, ready to go, than panicking that I'm not warm enough or not ready to bowl my first ball. So I just thought, what's an extra 15 minutes of bowling going to do in a day? So I just got out there and got used to the atmosphere a bit.
George and then Mike at the back.
Hi.
Hi.
I think the stats suggested your first 10 overs was the quickest you bowled for the last 5 years, I think it was. I wonder where that came from, and whether you thought you'd been sort of squeezed out in the last few months, and whether that had forced you to look at things a bit differently and change things a little bit.
No, I mean, I've changed my run-up through Sri Lanka and the Caribbean. I've shortened my run-up to try and shorten my delivery stride to get a bit more bounce and potentially pace. I felt like in a great rhythm since doing that. I thought I bowled nicely in the Caribbean, just didn't get a huge amount of luck. And yeah, I mean, at Ireland, I probably should have got 5 in the second innings with 5 balls at Boyd ranking, but didn't work out. But I think the crucial thing to top level sport is that you're always looking to improve. And that's been a philosophy of mine ever since Andrew Strauss took over as captain. He wanted his players to do that, and I think 32, 33 was a good age to try and take my game to make a tweak and try and take it to a different level. And I've been delighted with the way sort of I bowled against Ireland, and obviously happy with 5 today. Could have been a bit better when we walked off at tee, but I feel like my game's in a good place, and I just long may that continue, really.
The question about being squeezed, because it does appear there's some really good bowlers coming through. Jofra for a start.
No, I mean that's international cricket, isn't it? There's always people after spots in teams. One thing we know about fast bowling is that injuries always occur, so you do need what's the right word? A battery of them, a good group of fast bowlers, because look, 5 tests in 6 weeks, there's no way that you're going to just use 4 seamers in that. But no, I mean, obviously when you're not in the white ball side, there was such an amazing World Cup experience for everyone. It was a white ball focus ever since February. So you're not particularly an England player for that period from February up until June. But as soon as June arrived leading into this series, the contact grew from the England side, and it was very much building up to today. So no, I feel very much part of this team. It's a brilliant culture to be around. Ruti and Morgs have done some brilliant work around the culture of the side and the beliefs of the team and the things moving forward, and it's exciting to be involved in that.
We'll do Mike, James, Dean, and then we'll finish with Rob.
Stuart at the back here. As someone who's copped it from Australian crowds in the past, do you approve of England fans booing Steve Smith reaching his 100 and booing him when he runs off with 140 odd to his name at the end there?
I mean, one thing's for sure, that atmosphere was lively today. It was loud. It's certainly in my top 15. There were times as players out there when we were like, wow, this is really special to be out here. The noise, the enjoyment in the crowd we're getting out of the day. Having gone through getting a bit of stick in Australia, I think it's part of being a professional sportsman. I actually quite enjoyed it. It was something a bit different, and it was a bit of a challenge for me going to Australia and getting ready for that sort of crowd stuff. I mean, I think footballers who play away from home get it all the time. When Vieira used to go to Old Trafford, etc. So I think it's just a bit unexpected sometimes in cricket, but Smith seemed to deal with it okay.
Hi, Stuart. Obviously, you've played a fair bit with James Pattinson now. You sort of alluded to it there. What sort of challenge does he pose the batsman tomorrow, and how do you think he's feeling? Because obviously this is his first test for quite a while.
I think he'll be very proud because he's put a huge amount of hard work into getting back into this Australian team. I think he's had quite a serious back operation that Shane Bond had years ago. and I've seen the behind the scenes of those sort of operations where he's putting in the sort of hard yards to get to the fitness of what you need to for international cricket. So he should be an inspiration for a lot of people who suffer injuries out there, and the fact that he can come back and play the first Ashes Test after such a tough time with his back. I know the dangers he poses from playing with him. He's the sort of guy you want in your team. He's one of those Aussies who he's aggressive. He spits his snot everywhere. He's first to have a VB off the field and stuff. So yeah, he's one of those guys who. So when he played for Notts, I sort of could imagine what it was like when Hadley was there, or when Michael Holding was playing for Derby. It's like the members got in their seats to watch him bowl, which was pretty special in the fact that he'd only played half a season for Notts, but he had that X factor that you wanted to see in county cricket that was there throughout the 80s and early 90s. Donald here, so to speak. But so he's great to have on your team, and he obviously will pose a threat to our batting unit, but so does every Test bowler. It's he's got good pace and good skills, but so do most Test bowlers.
Keep it to one question, and then we'll finish with Rob.
Stuart,
is he not renowned to keeping it to one question?
Stuart, you've obviously been doing this quite a while with Jimmy, but in addition to the kind of excitement you get from bowling in Ashes cricket, do you also quite enjoy that added responsibility when Jimmy's not able to do what he does? You obviously Trent Bridge 4 years ago, and Ireland last week. You stepped up again this time without him.
I mean, I do enjoy added responsibility, but that's not sort of when Jimmy's not in the side. I still, we try and lead together when we're out there in the field together. But Rooty came to me at lunch saying, "Look, Jimmy isn't going to bowl again today. You, Wiz, and Stokesy, we might ask quite a lot of you today, but just put everything on the line today, and we can just reassess what happens tomorrow." So when your captain comes to you and asks for that sort of thing, it's a very easy place to get to him. It's Ashes cricket. You want the ball every ball. You want to just run in and go. If Jimmy can't bowl again, Moeen's probably going to be our key man. Bowled beautifully today, I thought. Absolute jaffa to get rid of Sids. And it will go back to those sort of days when we played 3-seam attack with Swanee. Mo can do a holding role, an attacking holding role, and let the seamers fire from one end. So, it changes our dynamics slightly, losing a bowler, but with the cricketer like Stokes in your side who gets in as a batsman and a bowler, it saves you a little bit.
You've bowled a lot to Steve in previous series. I was just wondering, have you noticed any sort of changes today, whether it be sort of cricket things or even just the whole demeanour and mannerisms or anything like that?
Is he always that fidgety? It seemed like he was really fidgety today, but and getting a bit frustrated with himself when he didn't hit a 4. But I think that might be just because I've not played against him for 18 months, so I sort of forgot how much he moves around. But no, I mean he's obviously. I don't think he's changed too much technically. He's always moved his feet a lot in the crease. He came a bit outside off stump. He came outside off stump a little bit and then tried to stay a bit leg side. So he manoeuvres around to try and put the bowler off their line. And I mean, something we can look at is maybe manoeuvring around ourselves more on the crease to change his angles. But he's a fantastic. I mean, look at his record. He's averaged nearly 60, I think, doesn't he? He's, you've got to make those first 20 balls at him count. And I think we bowled really well at him for a period of time. But he's arguably the best batter in the world at batting with the tail. He finds boundaries, he manoeuvres twos, finds awkward gaps, and seems to score runs without taking too many risks. So, for us to win this Ashes series, we're going to have to get him out early and hope for a little bit more pace and bounce in the pitches.